At number 10, we have Cellular Jail, also known as Kalapani. This prison is notorious for terrible conditions for the inmates. Reportedly, prisoners could face torture, medical tests, forced labor, and, for many, execution. The inmates have tried to go on hunger strikes to protest the terrible conditions. However, the guards began force-feeding them anyways. The prison is located in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and being sent here is the equivalent of a living execution. If a prisoner were to complain, they'd be subject to extreme torture methods. One of them being that they would be forced to wear coarse clothing that was rough on their skin and scratch their skin for 3 months. Many escapes were attempted, but prisoner 12819, Mehtab, and prisoner 10817, Choi Toon, came the closest to succeeding. According to The Guardian, they stole away from the islands on March 26, 1872, rowing out into the Bay of Bengal on homemade rafts across a 750-mile stretch of turbulent water, dodging schools of bounty hunters who fought over 250 rupee rewards, which was then 25 pounds. Picked up by a British vessel, they persuaded the crew that they were shipwrecked fishermen and eventually pitched up, free, at the stranger's home for Asiatics in London. The two were fed, clothed, and given a bed, but while they slept, Colonel Hughes, the home's proprietor, took photographs that were circulated around the empire. One morning, Mehtab and Choi Toon awoke to find themselves shackled and frog-marched aboard a ship bound for India. At number 9, Chennai's Pushal Prison. Back in the days of it being commissioned, this prison was brutal. Prisoners had no access to water and cleaned their toilets with mud. Even when they had access to water, they had to choose whether to wash themselves or their clothes. Nowadays, it seems the prison has changed its ways completely. Additional Director General of Police and Inspector General of Prisons, Ashutosh Shukla, told The Hindu, the facilities provided to A-class prisoners are portrayed as a luxury. Mattresses, clothes, cots, tables, private cooking, and eating vessels are permitted to the prisoners of A-class as per Tamil Nadu Prison Rules 1983. There is nothing unusual. If a prison can afford to wear a suit inside the prison, we can't prevent that. Wearing shorts and shoes are also permissible. The prison does have one very big problem that seems to keep rearing its head. Prisoners keep getting cell phones somehow and taking hilarious selfies in their cell. The prison authorities removed 18 television sets after they found that inmates were using the USB ports in them to charge mobile phones brought in illegally, sources said. At number 8, Moradabad Central Jail, Uttar Pradesh. This prison has a maximum capacity of 650 inmates, but actually houses 2,200 prisoners. As they all share cells, they sleep in shifts. The lucky ones get their own cell, which is only 6 feet by 2 feet. For comparison, the average American cell size is 50 to 70 square feet. What's worse? 70% of the total 300,000 inmates in India's 1,356 prisons have not been convicted of any offense. They are under trials, most of them victims of police high-handedness and a grindingly slow judicial system. Of them, nearly 2,000 have spent more than 5 years behind bars without being convicted of any crime. At number 7, Begusarai Jail in Bihar. Begusarai Jail in Bihar was such a terrifying experience for an 18-year-old Amit Kumar that he still wakes up screaming from nightmares of police boots crashing into his body and faces of hardened criminals staring at him. Kumar was released on June 13th after spending 72 days there. He was arrested on charges of facilitating a neighbor's abduction. Tortured to make him confess to the crime, he was released only after the abducted boy's body was found and another neighbor confessed to the crime. India Today conducted a massive investigation into the jails in India and discovered a huge crime ring within the biggest prisons. At number 6, Bur Jail. In Patna, almost every major crime is linked to the gang lords lodged in Bur Jail. In February 2011, under trial Bablu Mishra, accused of selling spurious liquor, was beaten to passing in Bihar's Nawada jail at the behest of the powerful liquor mafia, which feared that Mishra would spill the beans. Bur Jail in Patna is one of the largest prisons in India, headed by Sri Jitendra Kumar. He is also known to control the illegal activities inside the prison. Kumar is a 1995 batch officer and has experience of working as the central jail superintendent for more than 10 years. He is considered a no-nonsense cop. Corruption is a large problem in India as well. Often cops accept bribes from inmates to turn a blind eye to them smuggling things behind bars. At number 5, Delhi's Tihar Jail. Tihar Jail is one of the most corrupt jails in India. Rajiv Agarwal managed to smuggle in a BlackBerry phone. It is not known how long he had the phone before it was recovered from his cell during a surprise check. A page 3 prisoner accused of a white-collar crime disclosed how he managed to use his satellite phone undetected in the prison for 2 years. According to him, life in prison can be comfortable if one has money and is not in the media glare. From pizzas to chicken from Mario's Bukhara to the best quality booze, everything can be arranged for the right price. It's just that the chicken has to be boneless and the liquor clear like gin, vodka, or white rum. I calculated that one needs about 20 million rupees a year to live comfortably in jail, the former Tihar inmate said. At number 4, Yerwada Jail, Pune. This is the famous jail that Mahatma Gandhi spent several years in during his Quit India movement. It is one of the biggest prisons in South Asia and the biggest one in the state of Maharashtra. It can house up to 5,000 prisoners at once. During his 1932 imprisonment, which started after his arrest in January 1932, Gandhi went on an indefinite fast to protest against the communal award for depressed classes on the 20th of September 1932. He discontinued his fast after signing an agreement called the Pune Pact with the leader of depressed classes, Dr. Ambedkar, in jail on the 24th of September 1932. Gandhi was released from the jail in May 1933. At number 3, Parapana Agrahara. So apparently India holds a yearly competition during a hygiene meeting to determine which prison has the most amazing hygiene out of them all. Parapana Agrahara has taken the prize. Yes, they have prizes for first place. Around 1,319 prisons from across all states and union territories had participated in the contest, which was held in Ahmedabad recently. Quality of the food, livelihood, and health of the prisoners, cleanliness inside the prison compound, maintenance of toilets and bathrooms, safety, security, and duty deployment were some of the parameters which were surveyed as part of the competition. A competition on how clean a prison is seems a bit oblivious to the reasons a prison exists for. At number 2, Madras Central Prison. Madras Central Prison used to be one of the largest prisons in India, but had all of the inmates transferred to a different prison. It was originally built to house transit convicts who were to face the Sazai Kalapani in cellular jail. In 1999, some of the inmates rioted following the passing of an inmate named Boxer Vadavelu. They set fire to a room where the assistant warden had taken refuge. Riot police were called in to contain the riots. The police initially used tear gas to quell the rioters before resorting to live ammunition. In the battle which ensued between the inmates and the riot police, 10 people, including a prison official, were executed, while more than 100 people were injured. At number 1, Sanganer Open Prison. Open prisons aren't a known concept in the West, but let me break it down. Open prisons have minimal security. Sanganer Open Prison gives prisoners 12 hours to roam every day. At the end of the day, the inmates must return for a head count. The system is completely trust-based with the prisoners. Admittance to India's open prisons is similar to how parole works in many countries. Prisoners are transferred from conventional prisons into open ones based on a range of criteria such as behavior, motivation to reform, and physical and mental fitness. Number 10, Abashiri Prison. This penal institution is located in Abashiri, Hokkaido Prefecture. Constructed in 1890, this prison was a staple in the culture back in 1965 for a film that came out that year titled Abashiri Prison, which detailed fictional stories from the very real prison. In April 1890, the Meiji government sent over 1,000 political prisoners to the isolated Abashiri village and forced them to build roads linking it to the more populous south. Initial conditions were extremely harsh, with insufficient food and rest, and over 200 prisoners passed away from malnutrition, accidents, and as punishment for attempting to escape. Abashiri Prison later became known for being a self-sufficient farming prison and was cited as a model for others throughout Japan. The prisoners who were held there included politicians, activists, spies for the Soviet Army, and former Yakuza. The prison now has a museum dedicated to the legacy of the prison and its notable prisoners, and is the only prison museum in Japan. Number 9, the Tokyo Detention House. The Tokyo Detention House is located in the Katsushika Prefecture in Tokyo and is operated by the Ministry of Justice. This prison contains one of only 7 execution chambers in Japan. All executions in Japan are carried out by hanging. The execution chamber in Tokyo has a trap door which is operated by one of the 3 buttons in the next door room, which are simultaneously pressed by 3 prison staff members so that none of them will know who activated the drop. Before entering the execution chamber, the condemned person passes a Buddhist statue of Kannon, a bodhisattva associated with compassion. The execution chamber has 2 sections, with both of them together no larger than a 15 tatami mat room. When the execution happens, the body drops into a room below the execution chamber. It is in this room where execution is confirmed. The prison's main purpose is to detain people awaiting for trial, convicted felons, and those sentenced to execution. Number 8. Osaka Detention Center. Osaka Detention Center is a correctional facility in Miyakajimaku, Osaka. This prison is another with an execution room, used to hang notable executioners. Osaka Detention Center was in the Japan Times for a controversy in 2019, where it was reported that some essential things for prisoners were much too expensive than normal. This is what they said in the article. Tissue paper and other daily products sold at Osaka prison are so expensive that inmates mostly cannot purchase them, a situation amounting to a human rights violation. According to local lawyers, the Osaka Bar Association advised the prison to make improvements in a statement dated March 29th, after finding that 800 pieces of tissue were being sold inside the prison for 594 yen, some 4.5 times higher than the market price. Number 7. Nagoya Detention House. This correctional facility is located in Higashiku, Nagoya, housing one very notable inmate, Tsukasa Kanda. Tsukasa was one of 3 people who executed a woman after parking a van on a road waiting for someone to ambush. The other 2 people involved were Kawagishi and Hori. They found their victim and robbed her of her ATM cards before hitting her in the head with a hammer approximately 30 times, while simultaneously choking her with a rope. Capital punishment is a legal penalty for executioners in Japan, but the general sentencing guideline means that execution sentences are not usually passed for a single execution committed. Fumiko Isogai, whose only child was executed in this crime, launched a campaign to call for the execution penalty for the 3 executioners in September 2007. Within 10 days, her petition was signed by 100,000 citizens. She presented her petition for the execution penalty with some 150,000 signatures to the District Public Prosecutor's Office of Nagoya on the 23rd of October 2007. About 318,000 citizens had signed her petition by December 2008. Although single executioners rarely face an execution sentence in Japan, it was expected that the recent trend towards stricter punishments, backed by the growing public support for capital punishment, would encourage the court to sentence Kanda and Hori to execution. Kawagishi's and Kanda's fathers also asked the court to sentence their sons to execution. Kanda was then sent to Nagoya Detention House and hung for his crime. Number 6. Kusatsu Special Prison. Kusatsu Special Prison was a prison that operated between 1938 and 1947 in Kuryu Rakusen-en Sanatorium in Kusatsu Onsen, Kusatsu Town, Gunma Prefecture, Japan, where criminals in public leprosariums throughout Japan were imprisoned. Prisons for conventional crimes had been built earlier in all public leprosariums. 22 out of 93 prisoners passed away of cold or maltreatment in the cells or after confinement. In Japanese, it was called Tokubetsu Byoshutsu, which translates to special ward, or Ju Kanbo, which translates to prison for severe crimes. There were 8 independent cells. Each cell was less than 4.5 meters in size, with wooden floors with a hole in it as a latrine. There was a small hole for the distribution of meals. There was no heating system. The cells had tall walls and were physically separate from each other, each cell being a separate building entity. The temperature would often reach negative 20 degrees Celsius. Administration, maintenance, and repression were roles partaken by male nurses. Number 5. Kikuchi Medical Prison. In 1909, the first public leprosariums, or sanatoriums, started in Japan, with wandering leprosy patients which included criminals. In 1915, the treatment of criminals was discussed by directors of leprosariums. In 1916, the decisions of confinement and custody could be made by the directors of leprosariums, such as imprisonment of less than 30 days within leprosariums and reduction of meals. Between 1912 and 1951, there were various riots within the leprosariums. In 1939, a special prison was started within the Kusatsu leprosarium, which led to the Kusatsu Special Prison Incident. In August 1947, members of the Japan Communist Party visited the special ward and found that 22 criminals passed away in the special ward or after imprisonment. However, responsible persons could not be punished. Discussions by diet men, officials of the Ministry of Welfare, and directors of leprosariums and representatives of leprosy patients agreed on the necessity of a prison. Number 4. Fuchu Prison. It is located in the city of Fuchu, Tokyo, to the west of the center of Tokyo metropolis. Before the end of WW2, Fuchu Prison held communist leaders, members of banned religious sects, and leaders of the Korean independence movement. Fuchu Prison was opened in June 1935, after the need for a new and larger prison was determined by the Home Ministry, in a review following the 1923 Great Kanto earthquake. during which Tokyo's main prison, Sugamo Prison, was destroyed. During the pre-conflict period, the prison also housed many political prisoners as well as common criminals. After the conflict, the prison was visited by Harold Isaacs of Newsweek, French correspondent Robert Ghislaine, John K. Emerson, E. Herbert Norman, and Domei reporter Tei Tataishi. The 1968 300 million yen robbery took place outside of the walls of the prison. The prison was home to former Yakuza, foreign inmates, and executioners. Number 3. Tokushima Prison. Tokushima, 520 kilometers west of Tokyo, converted a building to house elderly inmates, putting itself at the forefront of an effort to cope with Japan's graying prisoner population. The prison holds prisoners all the way into their old age, not even letting them leave then. I have a heart condition and used to collapse often at the prison factory, said an 81-year-old inmate at Tokushima, imprisoned for life for ending a taxi driver's life and injuring another person 6 decades ago. Prison rules forbid publishing his name. Number 2. Sugamo Prison. The rules at Sugamo Prison are strict. The jailers were inside the prison cell block with the prisoners, and the guards were stationed outside anywhere from towers to hallways to entrances. No hands were to be laid on the prisoners unless there was a dire emergency. There were no problems. Each prisoner had a single cell to himself. A jailer watched them 24 hours, unless they had been removed for court. The prisoners were required to sleep with a dim light on, and their hands had to be outside of the covers. They were allowed 1 hour of exercise a day and could communicate with each other for brief amounts of time. One of the major concerns was prisoner self-harm, yet in the cell block with the older men, there had been no attempts for anyone to take their own life. Number 1. Yamaguchi Jail. The nation's first prison operated by the private sector opened in Mine, Yamaguchi Prefecture. The Mine Social Return Promotion Center, built on 28 hectares, does not have any inmates yet. It will soon begin accepting prisoners serving time for their first criminal offense. The prison has the capacity to hold 500 men and 500 women. I hope you will live up to expectations and trust toward realizing safe communities by offering high-quality correctional education, making use of private sector creativity. Justice Minister Gina Nagase said in an inauguration speech. The government has consigned most of the prison's operation, including security, job training, and cleaning, to an operating company set up by concerns including a major security firm. The 51.7 billion yen contract runs for 20 years. At number 10, Cho Yong-gon. Cho Yong-gon was one of the vice premiers of North Korea and deputy minister of construction and building material industries. He appears to have disappeared from public life after December 2014. In August 2015, South Korea's Yonhap news agency reported that, according to a source who demanded anonymity, he is believed to have been executed in May 2015 after opposing the policies of North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un on forestry. He was 63 at the time of his passing. Not much information is known about Yong-gon, all of it seemingly destroyed or hidden by North Korean government. At number 9, Yang Song-taek. On the 12th of December 2013, Yang was tried by a special secret military tribunal of the Ministry of State Security and executed by firing squad, according to state media. Chinese media and North Korea experts suggested that Yang Song-taek's fall reflected a rejection of his efforts to prioritize economic development, and a victory for North Korean advocates of a military-first policy. Chang Yong-suk, senior researcher at the Institute for Peace and Unification Studies at Seoul National University, said Yang was the only one in the North who could talk about economic change. So when I heard of Mr. Yang's execution, my first thought was that it was a demise notice for those of us who had hoped for economic reform in the North. Number 8, Kim Chol. Kim Chol worked as a vice minister in the North Korean army. He was allegedly purged and executed in spectacular fashion for drinking and carousing during the period of mourning for Kim Jong-il. South Korean media reported that he was exploded by mortar bombardment and not shot by firing squad. However, Foreign Policy observed the claims probably originated from gossip and noted that stories about violent passings of North Korean elites tend to be exaggerated. Kim was one of 14 senior party, military, and government officials who were purged during Kim Jong-un's consolidation of power. Although he was held in prison, the execution was likely committed outside to avoid, well, destroying the prison. Number 7, Moon Kyung-jin. Moon Kyung-jin is a possibly deceased North Korean violinist who was formerly the head of Unhasu Orchestra. He was reported to have been executed in August 2013 along with others. Moon has received numerous awards and recognitions from the North Korean government during his career. In 2005, Moon won a competition held in Hungary. He performed with the Unhasu Orchestra at the Celle Pleyel Concert Hall in Paris on March 14, 2012. At the time, Moon told Associated Press, "Despite differing languages, we hope that we can easily understand each other through music and become friends, in an interview conducted shortly before the Parisian performance. According to a report, other arrested musicians were arrested as political dissidents or accused of possessing Bibles. The report also said that Moon Kyung-jin was executed by firing squad on August 20th, 2013. Number 6. Ri Young-ho. On the 16th of July 2012, North Korean state media reported Ri Young-ho had been relieved of all of his party duties, namely his Presidium Committee membership, Politburo membership, and Party Central Military Commission vice chairmanship, stating this move was due to unspecified illness. A spokesman for the South Korean Ministry of Unification said the move was very unusual. The meeting at which his removal was announced was attended by the entire Presidium, Politburo members, and candidate members, making ill health seem implausible minor. Ri was replaced by Hyun Yong-chol in the role of the Chief of the General Staff. On the 20th of July 2012, unconfirmed reports from North Korea alleged that Ri had passed or been injured in a firefight with political bureau troops. In November 2012, the South Korean media reported that Ri was believed to be under house arrest. A 2015 report stated that Ri Young-ho had been executed in 2012. A lot of differing reports. At number 5, Park Ju-hong. Park was an official of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. According to South Korean media, he had held the post of Deputy Director of the North Korean Workers' Party Administration Department. Park was involved with the Ministry of People Security. Consequently, he made multiple appearances at leader Kim Jong-un's on-site visits. Park was among the closest associates of Yang Song-taek. For instance, he accompanied Yang on a field guidance tour led by Kim Jong-un. They inspected Okryo Children's Hospital. According to a report distributed to overseas diplomatic missions of North Korea, the 16 closest associates of Yang were executed. The list included Park Jong-hong's name. The report stated that he was executed for showing disloyalty to first chairman of the National Defense Commission, Kim Jong-un. However, the report had not been independently verified. Park was reported to have been purged at the time of Ryong Chong-song's purge, as both were censored from articles available at the Uri Minzokiri website. At number 4, Park Nam-gi. In March 2010, it was reported by news agencies including Yonhap, Bloomberg, and The Guardian that Park had been tried and then executed by firing squad in Pyongyang for the offense of being a son of a bourgeois conspiring to affiliate the ranks of revolutionaries to destroy the national economy. According to The Guardian, he had been denounced as a traitor during a meeting in January 2010 and arrested on the spot. This related to the devaluation of the North Korean won in November 2009, which led to a crisis after rendering many people's savings valueless. Although John Park, a Stanton Jr. faculty fellow at MIT, claimed in 2012 that Park Nam-gi is still alive and had resurfaced after his alleged execution, Ri Jae-gong, the former first deputy head of the WPK Organization and Guidance Department, says Park Nam-gi was executed by firing squad in the course of a reactionary purge in 2010. Many inmates and political prisoners in North Korea are denounced as traitors to justify the executions of them. At number 3, Woo In-hee. Woo In-hee started an affair with Kim Jong-il. It is not known for certain when they began their courtship, other than it took place sometime in the late 1970s. While being treated for carbon monoxide poisoning, which led to the passing of a man in his car, Woo accidentally mentioned her relationship with the supreme leader. Kim Jong-il had Woo executed for talking about their secret relationship. In 1981, Woo was told she was free to go, but she was instead taken to the Kangkon Military Academy shooting grounds, just north of Pyongyang. She was tied to a post and shot in front of 6,000 people. 12 gunmen each fired 10 rounds from their AK-47s, mutilating her body beyond recognition. Woo's husband, Yoo Ho-sun, was forced to watch the execution. At number 2, Cho Man-sik. On the 5th of January, Cho was arrested by Soviet soldiers and detained in Pyongyang's Koryo Hotel. For some time, he was kept under comfortable conditions at the Koryo Hotel, from which position he continued to vocally oppose the communists. The Soviet civil administration discredited Cho by spreading rumors that he had collaborated with Japan. He stood in the 1948 vice presidency election, but by then the communist influence in the country's affairs was too strong, and he was unsuccessful, receiving only 10 votes from the National Assembly. Cho was later transferred to a prison in Pyongyang, where confirmed reports of him end. In June 1950, days before the North Korean invasion of South Korea, the northern and southern governments reached a tentative agreement to exchange Cho and his son for jailed South Korean Workers' Party leaders Kim Sam-young and Yoo Joo-ha. However, by June 24th, the two sides could not agree on a modality of exchange. After the start of the conflict the next day, Kim and Yoo were executed at Namsan in Seoul. Cho is generally believed to have been executed along with the political prisoners during the early days of the Korean conflict, possibly in October 1950. At number 1, Park Hyung-young. According to secret documents of the former Soviet Union released in succession until 2002, Kim Il-sung and Park Hoon-young always acted together until the delayed plans of the conflict were finally decided. Kim Il-sung and Park Hoon-young were also on hand during their visit to Moscow from the 30th of March to the 25th of April 1950, when they were approved for conflict by Stalin. During the visit, Kim Il-sung and Park Hoon-young met Stalin and got written instructions of detailed conflict plans. Park Hoon-young was arrested on the 3rd of August 1953 in a purge of the former members of the Workers' Party of Korea by Kim Il-sung. On the 15th of December 1955, he was sentenced to execution for espionage. The date of Park's execution is uncertain, though sources suggest that he was executed that same month. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.